Welcome to another episode of Whitetail Rendezvous, coming to you 6 days a week as we interview whitetail experts and hear their traditions and personal stories of the hunt. Learn more about the latest gear, discover proven tips, and the latest strategies so you can make your next hunt a success. Now, here's your host, Bruce Hutchin.
Whitetail Rendezvous is pleased to announce a partnership with GoHunt.com. Who's GoHunt.com? Well, if you're a DIY hunter, you need the information at GoHunt.com/insider. Why? Because it provides 4,200 profiles, every unit, every species, and every season. Furthermore, they give in-depth analysis, interactive maps, unit access, and seasonal trends. Draw odds are very important, and they give you the most accurate information in the business. All this is available when you go to GoHunt.com/insider. Make sure you use promo code WR when you join Insider. You'll get a $50 gift card for GoHunt.com Gear Shop. Remember, when you become a member of GoHunt.com/insider, you're going to get a $50 gift card to Go Hunt Gear Shop. What's in the gear shop? The best gear that you can buy for hunting the West. All in all, if you're hunting out West in 2018, GoHunt.com/insider is where you need to be to get all the research information. When you use promo code WR, Whitetail Rendezvous receives a small commission from GoHunt.com. Hey, folks, we got a new sponsor. It's called Buckwild Coffee. What's so special about Buckwild Coffee? Well, a gazillion people go to Starbucks every day and drink coffee. Well, why shouldn't Buckwild Coffee offer you light, medium, or dark roast with free shipping? All you have to do is go to whitetailrendezvous.com, go to shop, and order your coffee, and I'll ship it out for free. Hey, thanks so much for visiting Buckwild Coffee. The best brew in the West, the best brew around the campfire, the best brew in the hunting shack, the best brew anywhere. Buckwild Coffee. Get yours today. Good afternoon, everybody. Good morning. I don't know when you're listening to this podcast, but this is Bruce Hutchin, your host. And we're heading out to the Dakotas, and Jake Gullickson and John Newberg are going to talk about bow hunting mature whitetails. And I'm happy to have them on the show because more and more people are asking me all the time, okay, I'm hunting a lot of deer, seeing a lot of deer, but, I want to change it up because I know my camera says there's some nice deer, some 125, 130, maybe even 150 class deer on my property, and I don't know how to do it. So I'm looking to find guys that are doing it and know how to do it. So, like I said, Jake is from South Dakota. He loves hunting whitetails. He's with Whitetail on the Ground, Brian Ritchie, and he's with Boat Stick. I think it's Boat Sticks. Is that correct?
Buckstick.
Buckstick. Pardon me about that. And then Sean Newberg is the founder of Bow Hunting Mature Whitetails. So, guys, welcome to the show. I'm excited to have you on here, and I know we're going to bring some great information, great content to all my listeners across North America. So, who wants to start off and tell why we're doing this podcast?
I can start. That's fine. So, pretty much, we're doing this podcast to kind of help get bow hunting mature whitetails out there and help get other people to hopefully help them in their ways to hunt a mature whitetail and get some advice and some tips that'll hopefully help them, have a better season this coming year.
Jake, what's your thought about mature whitetails? What makes them special?
The challenge. I grew up hunting. I've hunted since I was 12 years old. Started with a gun, and I've always been blessed to have pretty good property to hunt. And most of my tags have been filled opening day with rifle, and I just kind of learned. So I put down the rifle and picked up something a little bit more challenging here. The last probably about 4 years ago, I picked up a bow for the first time, and just the challenge of bow hunting, and on top of that, you add the mature aspect into it. It completely changes what you're after. So.
Yeah, go ahead. What were you gonna say, Sean?
Oh, nope, I'm good.
Okay. Well, the questions I have for you: how do you make that transition you've seen deer, you put deer down, you get deer in the freezer, but all of a sudden says there's got to be more. And I think a lot of people are looking for that because last couple of years, QDMA says that they've seen an increase in the number of 2.5-year-old bucks being killed. It's just not a spike or a forky or, a basket buck, but it's actually, heading towards, 120 or that type of thing. But they're mature animals. They're 2.5 years old. So when you think about that, how can you help bridge the gap to get people to get away from the brown and down unless they're hunting for meat or they're youth or that's just what they want to hunt? That's certainly their right. It's their tag. But for the rest of the people, a lot of people really want to get challenged, as I said in the warm up, that they see a 135, 150 class deer on their trail cam, then he just disappears, and they don't see him, and then all of a sudden hunt season's over, and there he is. So how does that work?
Well, I'd say, if you start out, let's say there's two different ways here. All summer, let's say you're seeing this 160-inch, 4.5-year-old. He's there. All summer you see him. And then you start getting into fall and hunting season. There's two things that happen. One, you put more pressure on your property. You're going in there a lot more often. You're checking trail cameras. Maybe you're setting stands up closer to season. You're trying to get in there because you're like, oh, hunt season's next week. I don't have all this stuff done yet. Where you're trying to get in there and do all this scouting that you didn't get done earlier in the year. So all of a sudden you're putting a ton of pressure on your property, and that's taking that mature deer. He's going, all right, this guy keeps coming around. I'm out of here. I'm going to the neighbors. So that's one of the biggest issues I see for hunting mature whitetails is people don't realize that even just a little bit of extra pressure will push that deer away. The other thing that happens is deer naturally will change their fall range. You can have them there all summer, but they might have a fall range that's 2 miles away where that property's got a better habitat for that deer. So that's one of two things that could happen is they could just move off on their own, or you're putting too much pressure on your property. That's pushing them away.
So how do you not do that though? Because, mature bucks know you're there, but if you want to hunt them, you got to be there. You got to get in the stand. So how do you balance that?
You can go.
For me, I know the type of property that I have and know the times that it's good. I know I have a really, really good rut spot, in late season. I don't have much for that early season stuff to where I don't. So therefore, I don't. I tend to stay out of my hunting grounds until about the middle to end of October. So from September 23rd or whatever season opens up until the middle to the end of October, I don't even go on my property. I run trail cameras. My trail cameras are relatively quick and easy to get to without being too intrusive. So and that's the other thing is entrance and exit routes to your tree stands. Educating the deer the least amount as possible is going to get you further and further, and closer and closer to achieving the goal of harvesting mature deer.
Just like Jake said.
Go ahead.
Yep.
Go ahead, Sean. Sorry.
Yep. Just like Jake said, your entrance and exit, play a huge role. And, he doesn't, like he said, he doesn't go in there until middle of October or so. For me, the property that I hunt this last fall, 2017, was the first year I was able to hunt that property. So I didn't have anything to go off of for previous years. I had no clue what I was looking at. So what I did was I went in the spring. I went in February, March, and I could see a lot of the trails the deer would take, and I would set up stands according to that. And during the summer, I would kind of stay away. But when you go to actually get onto your property to hunt it or to check trail cameras, you always got to be watching the wind. You always got to be, trying to figure out where the deer bedded at, where are they feeding at. Because if you're walking in there every time and blowing them out, you're educating them. You want to get in and out as quickly and as scent free as possible. And there's a couple things I also do is I use some products to help, keep my scent down. I use a scent crusher bag. I use scent-free soaps. I use scent-free laundry detergent, scent-free sprays. I'm one of those guys that goes above and beyond to try to make myself 100% scent free as much of the time as possible.
You mentioned something that's really important, and everybody thinks they know the best way to approach their stand, but there's right ways and wrong ways to do that, the entrance and exit, because I've left some river bottom stands, in fact, Buffalo County, and I thought I was clear. I didn't think anybody was around, and all of a sudden, I'm busted, or doe just goes off, and you jump out of your skin because it's dark. You're going out with your red light, on. It's just like, I'm screwed for the morning hunt. Yes or no?
No, I would say no. It depends, but this last year, I don't know how many times I'd walk up to this one stand and I'd be like, all right, this is perfect. I'm right in this spot where I've been seeing all this deer yesterday. I'm going to go hunt that stand. I go walk up to that stand and I got 3 or 4 does bedded literally at the base of my stand. So I go walk up there and of course, you blow them out because you can't see them. Well, come to find out, a little bit later, half hour after sun rises, all those does come back. It's not always going to happen, but by not putting a lot of pressure on your property earlier in the year, by not going in all the time during the summer, by educating the deer earlier on, I think it gives you a little bit of leeway when it comes to at least the does and the younger bucks, as far as scenting you and coming back. Now the mature deer, if you blow one of them out, it's literally a toss up. You could take a coin, say heads or tails, flip it, and that'd pretty much be the deer. It may come back, it may not come back. You don't know.
I've heard of a tactic where you intentionally bump them out of beds and then set on their bed and set up on the bed on their way back, hopefully catch them on their way back in. But that seems to me as a pretty aggressive tactic, and I probably wouldn't condone that. I'd rather scout and actually know what's around and not educate them, not bump them, not spook them, and give them the illusion of safety.
Yeah. Entrance and exit. So are you guys pretty disciplined? You only hunt X stand on a south wind, or do you figure out, okay, if it's south wind, it's a rut, it's situational, not so much just the wind?
I would say I'm pretty, I hunt stands based on the wind probably 99% of the time. There will be a few times where I don't, but that's because the property I hunt's a river bottom. And there's the north side of the property and the south side of the property, and the river goes east and west across it. If I know there's a buck that's continually on the south side and he's always going by this one spot, I might hunt that south side with a south wind. I'd have to be pretty dang confident, though. I wouldn't just go out there just for the heck of it, because everything on the north side of the property is smelling me, so it's not doing me any good. But I'd be willing to take chances, kind of towards the rut where things are heating up, and using all the scent free stuff I do. I have gotten away a few times of having deer downwind of me and they don't smell me. It's not something I would say you should do, but there is going to come a time at some point where you have to get aggressive. Season's almost over. Let's say, hey, it's middle of November. I got 2 weekends left to hunt, and I'm busy the rest of the year. It comes down to either be aggressive and do what you can to get that mature deer down, or you just pass out on and not fill your tag. It comes down to whether you feel comfortable not filling a tag for yourself or not.
For
Jake?
me, I
Go ahead.
I set my stands up to where they. I hunt in pretty hilly terrain, and the couple of my stand locations that I hunt more often than not, I would say, they're good for both the north and the south wind due to the giant drop off on one side, and then the wide open field on the other side, where anything that's going to check me down this way, or is going to be below that, the wind's going to blow over on the south wind, and on the north wind, anything that goes to check me, if I wanted to shoot them, they'd be, they'd be done before they got to that point.
Yeah. Do you guys target specific deer? Everybody has a hit list. Not everybody, but if you don't have a hit list, you really should focus because it helps you focus. That's a tip. If you're not doing that in some way, then you're just out there, hoping, rolling the dice and hoping whatever's come by. Because the good hunters that I know, they have hit lists and they know specifically the behaviors of those deer. So we're talking about 365 hunters here, not just a casual, well, I'm going to go out and, get in the old stand and see what happens. But, guys and gals that are serious about it. On that note, talk to you about your hit list and how you build that towards mature deer.
Yep. I pretty much what I go through, I have one camera out now, but here come about middle of June, I'll make sure I have the rest of my cameras out. And all summer long, I'll sit there and pretty much any deer that's mature, so 4.5 years or older, or that I feel is mature, because, I mean, let's face it, you can't, without previous history, you can't tell 100% how mature a deer is. But after a time, you kind of figure out with the saggy belly, the drop, the droopy neck, stuff like that, the brisket, you can tell how old he is. But I always make a hit list for myself, and there's two different deer I put on the hit list. I put shooter bucks, so deer that I'm targeting for that year, and that if they walk by, I'm flinging an arrow at. And I also have my up-and-coming list, where it's generally 3.5-year-olds that are, all right, this guy's definitely 3.5. And sometimes those 3.5-year-olds they'll look older, or they may have bigger antlers than some of your mature deer, so you want to shoot them. So I pay real close attention to that list to make sure I'm not shooting a deer that's immature, because that goes against everything I'm trying to do. It's not about inches, it's about maturity of the deer. And with having those two lists, it will help you make sure you shoot just your mature deer, and it lets you help pass your immature deer. And I actually, this last year, I had 3 deer on my hit list, and I had one buck that walked by that I didn't have a lot of time to guess how old he was. I'd never had him on my camera before, so I guessed him at 3.5, and he was about 130, 140-inch deer. Would have been the best deer I would have shot at the time. And, I let him walk by. I took a video of him, and I asked all my buddies, I'm like, hey, how old do you think this deer is? They're like, oh, yeah, he's mature. Yep, he's mature. And I'm like, well, I just passed on a mature deer. But, without the hit list, that's where the hit list comes into it, where you're watching these deer all summer, fall, winter, that you get to know them. So as soon as you see them, boom, that light bulb goes off. He's a shooter. You're grabbing your bow. So that's why I have a hit list, really, so I know what to shoot, what not to shoot.
For me, the hit list, like Sean said, is I don't do too much of the up and comer list per se, but I save every one of my pictures, on an external hard drive, and I'll flip through it. And this one deer I've had on camera for 3 years now. I guessed him a couple years ago or would have been 2 seasons ago at 2.5. So this year he had been 4.5, maybe 5.5. And missed him at 30 yards. And it's a sad story. We won't talk about that. But I tend to take my top 2 or 3. I mean, I hunt a smaller property. I'm hunting 90 acres, and 35 of that is timbered, and the other another 35 of that is native grass, and I don't really go out in there I don't have stands or anything out there, so kind of leave that as a sanctuary. But I'll take the top 2 or 3 and kind of focus on those, and then anything that might mosey on through it during the rut that's mature, I'd take a shot at it.
It's interesting, and I've made a mistake, but I didn't. I saw a gorgeous deer in Iowa, 6-inch browse tines and perfect 10-point frame, and I shot him, and he was like 2.5 years old. I shot a booner buck. I didn't let him grow, and and where I was hunting with, they said, you realize what you shot, and I said, yeah, it's a great deer, and brow tines are great. And that's what I saw with the brow tine, and they said, the setup, and I've learned a lot from QDMA, as you guys are involved in QDMA, and there's a lesson for everybody. learn from my mistakes, because if I had let that deer walk, he had all the potential in the world, to, to be a 150 plus class deer. But his frame, his configuration, everything about him says, I'm a young deer. Don't shoot me. But when you're hunting somebody else's property, where you don't make this list, where you don't familiarize yourself with it, and the people say, hey, on the pasture or the woodlot you're hunting, wherever you're hunting, here's the hit list. And folks, if you're going on a guided hunt, I don't care what state, ask them, do you have hit lists for each of your stand sets or each of your stand sets area? And if they say no, just say, I'd really like to know that, because I don't want to shoot a deer that's an up-and-comer. I want to shoot a deer that's going to be represented. Some people will just say, hey, it's your hunt, it's your money, whatever deer walks by, if you want to kill it, kill it. And it takes work. And I know you guys are working with QDMA, great segue, but let's talk a little about QDMA and how that's helped you become a mature buck hunter.
Well, we actually, me, Jake, and one of our other buddies, we actually started a branch out here in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, the Native Prairie Whitetails branch, where we're actually, for QDMA, where we're actually going through and trying to help educate other people. But the big thing about QDMA is, one thing I really, really enjoy about them is, first and foremost, they are, they'd rather have you enjoy your hunt rather than try to throw, hey, you have to shoot a 160-inch deer, stuff like that. I mean, step number one is make sure you're happy. And then step number two is to start learning how to, differentiate between a young deer and a mature deer. They talk about your doe herd and your buck to doe ratio. I mean, they go through the whole 9 yards of everything. It's not just, hey, we're going to sit here, we're going to pass these deer so they get old enough, then we're going to shoot them. No, they want you to go through and make sure your whole herd is healthy, your fawns are healthy, you have good cover for your deer, you have good food for your deer. It's not just shooting big deer, it's actual deer health. And to me, that's a big difference, as to why I enjoy QDMA so much, because, it doesn't matter how old the deer is. If they're sitting there and they're not healthy, they're dying off anyways, all the research they put into it. I mean, they're really one of the biggest companies that's helping keep our deer herd alive and researching everything so we can try to help combat diseases like EHD and CWD and stuff like that. So we actually still have a deer herd 100 years from now when our great grandkids are hunting. That's why I like QDMA.
I'm going to kind of second everything Sean said, but another thing that I'm going to add to that is knowing whitetail habitat is another good thing that QDMA offers. Between hinge cutting, food plots, and just setting up your property to be able to hold and grow these mature whitetails and these older deer, these older age class bucks.
Because it does take that, doesn't it?
Yeah. Unless you got a freak property, it takes a little bit of elbow grease.
Because it doesn't, everything that I know, it just doesn't happen. No, you can hit, a honey hole where every 3 or 4 years, I mean, there's a very mature buck, that he's there, because it's just like, I don't know if you guys trout fish, but when I used to trout fish, there was one hole or one rock or one log that, at the right time of year, always held a good fish. And if you take that fish out of there, you go back the next year, or for sure the year after that, guess what? Same size fish, a nice, 2.5 pound, 3 pound trout, whatever, is using that because it's prime habitat, it's prime environment. And that's one thing that people, I think, need to look for on their property. Okay, where's the prime? If I was a mature buck, where would be my, place to water, place to feed, and, place to sleep?
Well,
your thoughts?
I'm gonna add to that. And if you're missing any of those, you can always add it. I mean, if you don't have much for bedding areas, all it takes is a chainsaw, a little bit of elbow grease, and you can hinge some trees over and make a bedding area. With a garden rake and a little bit of elbow grease and $30 worth of seed, you can make a clover plot. Simple as burying a bucket in the ground, you can make a watering hole. If any of those three things that you're missing, or any of these things that you're missing on your property, a little bit of time and a little bit of effort goes a long ways.
Yeah, that's I would agree. That's what I'm doing on my property right now. I'm actually just getting ready to put a food plot in there, but it's got a creek, so it's already got water. My cover there, it's got good summer, good fall cover, but once you get it later into the fall where the leaves start coming up, your grasses all die, are dying down, it gets really bare in there. So my next step after I put my food plot in, whether it's this year or this next winter, I'm going to start going through, I'm going to hinge cut some trees. I'm going to try to open up the canopy and get an understory growing, because there's nothing a mature deer loves more than the feeling of safety. I mean, they would rather, it doesn't matter how much cover you have, it's this feeling of safety. And if you have good cover and you have safety, then that deer is going to live there. I've seen spots where, you would never guess a deer would be there, but they're out this little point in an egg field where there's some grass growing or something, where the farmer can't plant it, and that's where they're living. And you're like, all that is a 30 by 30 yard, patch of grass. What are they doing over there? There's nothing there for them. Well, they're safe, and by adding into your property a safe area that has, exit routes, because when you go through and hinge cut, you can make a bedding area, but you need to make sure you have good exit routes coming out of there. Because if they don't feel safe, they're not going to bed there.
That's a good point.
Spending time in Kansas and the Oklahomas, in Oklahoma, and in states like the Dakotas where trees aren't as plentiful as out east, and then in the Rocky Mountains. The Rockies got millions and millions of acres of timber, but the whitetails in Colorado are along the rivers and the cottonwoods, and about 1.5 miles, from the Platte River, the Arkansas River. That's basically where they live. But it's amazing if you can go do some long distance scouting down along those two drainages, and you can see bucks, mature bucks. You see just their tines, flicking, in a completely, barren field. It's not barren, but there's either sage or there's some cactus, and then all of a sudden you just catch a flicker of a ear or tine glint, and you go, oh my goodness, what is he doing out there? Because there's nothing out there. There's absolutely, you would swear a big buck like that, but it comes back to the safety, because everybody knows a big buck would not be there. In his whole life, nobody's ever come within 100 yards, maybe a coyote or something like that. But, as far as a bow hunter, he can't set up on him. He just can't.
Yeah.
Now, how do you guys hunt those deer? Those phantom deer?
Find a different one.
There's an honest man. I like that. There's an honest man.
You might get lucky where you could sneak up on them, if you did a spot and stock type of deal. But those mature deer, when they're in those grass areas where they're like up on a knoll or something where they can see all the way around them, you have to have a lot more skill than me on stalking deer, or you have to get lucky. I'd be a little closer venture to guess that you'd be better off sitting there watching them and figuring out, all right, where are they at least feeding at? Maybe there's a cornfield, a quarter mile away that they go to feed at. You can maybe intercept them on the way there, or once they get into the field, or something like that. But yeah, if there's not much cover there and you can't really get on them, it's kind of just a waiting game. Glass them, see where they go, and hopefully you can cut them off somewhere. And if not, depending on what kind of hunting you're doing, if this is private land, you're hunting it all year, you have some more time. But if you're public land hunting and, it's, hey, this is a week-long trip I'm doing, I don't have a lot of time, my advice, go find a different deer. Because you could waste all week trying to get that one deer and never figure out a way to get close enough to him. I'd at least give myself a fighting chance.
I'd agree. Depending on how much time you have, you can always, scout it and figure out what that deer is doing. There's ground blinds that you could, maybe set up along the path, or, depending on I guess I don't hunt that type of habitat. Most my stuff's pretty timber, which is kind of rare in South Dakota. But I mean, yeah, I don't know. I don't do much for the prairie hunting.
So you're in Sioux Falls, correct?
Nearby Sioux Falls.
Yeah, nearby.
Yeah. So you get the Missouri River come down through there. So do you hunt river bottoms or creek bottoms, or what are you
Sean
hunting?
and yeah, we're planning a whitetail trip out, doing some public ground stuff over in Gregory County, which is right along the Missouri River. But where I hunt in Minnehaha County, which that has the Big Sioux that runs through it. So that property I hunt is about a mile off the Big Sioux, and Sean hunts in Turner and right along the river along there too.
Yeah, I got a couple properties that actually the same river goes through. I think it's the same river goes through both, just at different points. But I grew up hunting creek and river bottoms, so that's kind of my little specialty area I always look for.
So when you're hunting a creek bottom, river bottom, how wide are they? I mean, are we talking a quarter mile, half a mile?
As far as like
the property or
width,
the river?
Yeah, the river,
river.
the available habitat that that the deer will use without exposing themselves on an open prairie or hillside.
Well,
go ahead, Sean.
One of my properties is literally huntable acres on it is 32 huntable acres with a creek going through it. So I mean, between the creek and the edge of the timber before it hits the egg field, I mean you're looking at 50, maybe 60 yards in some spots as the most. My other property I hunt, I mean it's even less than that, maybe 30 yards off the river is where the timber ends. So I mean it's not very very wide at all. They're all pretty small areas. That's how it is in South Dakota though. You don't very rarely do you actually have big timber setups. It's always all right. Pretty much either it's flood grounds where the farmers never went through and took all the trees out because they can't plant anyways, or it's these old tree grows that have been there forever where it's just not cost worthy to take them out. But there's so few of them left that your timber setups here in South Dakota are just so small. I mean, it's not like Wisconsin or up in northern Minnesota, where you have hundreds of acres of timber. I mean, you're talking 20, maybe 30 acres at the most.
Yeah, 30 acres is big timber.
30 acres is big timber for us.
On the east side of the state, anyway.
So if you got timber of 30 acres, are they living there? I mean, they're actually bedding the same timber you're hunting. I mean, that makes it really hard. I get the part of fence lines and ditches and creek bottoms and I call them stringers, just, cottonwoods or something that go on, following a creek bottom, but it's only 20 yards wide, and you got to find, how the deer are using that as a natural funnel. 30 yards, you can shoot across it. So how do you set up in that type of situation?
I use terrain features. The spots that narrow up where it gets to be 20, 30 yards wide, where you get those funnels, that type of funnel where you got wider timber comes down to a narrow patch and then opens back up to a little bit bigger timber. Well, I'll set up in that narrow patch where you can shoot across, because the deer isn't going to expose itself. The deer is going to want to run through the inner part of that timber to keep as hidden as possible. Same thing like if you're along a creek or whatever, deer like to take like the mid to high roads, like you got like a dike or something along a creek, or they're going to tend to run the top of that, especially during the rut. Looking for does. So, Sean, I guess you didn't get anything to add.
Pretty much, like the one property I hunt, there's a ridge going around the outside of the timber that's about 10 feet tall. So when I go to access my stands, I can walk the egg fields, and the deer can they cannot visibly see me when I'm walking in at all whatsoever. So, well, as long as they're in the timber anyways. But I can walk along that, and then a lot of times I'll set all my stands up kind of right on those ridges if I can, or not very far into the property, and I'll set my sticks up, so when I walk up to that stand, I'm going straight up the sticks right then and there. I don't have to go around the tree. So if you can go up the backside of the tree from where the deer are, I mean, you got a 3-foot tree in front of you, it's going to cover most of your body. So it gives you another advantage for them not seeing you. But as far as hunting them, with the creek bottom I hunt, finding those crossings too, the creek crossings, those make a huge difference. If you're lucky, you can find a spot where there's only 1 or 2 crossings in the whole spot. Well, that just gives you a 50-50 shot. Either they're crossing here or they're crossing here. Other than that, you'd be surprised on how small a terrain features deer will actually see and use. Because I got some spots on my property where it's literally, I mean, you're talking a 2 or 3 foot elevation change, but those deer will run it because, a 3 foot elevation change with 3 feet of grass is 6 foot. Well, all of a sudden, if they're running right on the backside of that, you can't see them, or you can barely see their tines sticking up. So, I mean, it's even just real subtle changes in elevation. The deer will use that to help, hide them from anything that's concerning, like a hunter or coyotes or anything like that.
Yeah, that's good stuff, guys. You think about it, and every place in the country, we all have our little different ways. And I like the thought about putting your sticks. So when you approach, you use that as cover. Typically where the deer are, but that's a good tip because I had not heard that before. A lot of people just do it, because it works. When we're talking about that, I'm saying, I was seeing a couple of setups when I used to use hang on. I'm going, that might have made a difference.
Yeah, and a big thing too is I've got a lot of stands that have the quick sticks where you stack all your sticks together with your little D loop, and you put it up on the tree. I'm moving away from those to get something more like stagger steps where it's each individual set of sticks and none of them connect because 1, it's quieter, and 2, you can put them on any side of the tree you wish. So you don't have, you get a tree that's not completely straight. Some of these sticks, you can't even use that tree. So you're hindering yourself, you're making more noise, and you're not putting the sticks on the right side of the tree you want. So by getting those stagger steps or something like that, you can put them exactly where you need them so you can hide yourself. It's a heck of a lot quieter because you don't have 2 pieces of metal clinking on each other all the time. And 3, the cost is about the same. I mean, they're more versatile. It's a no-brainer in my book. So
yeah, I just going back a few years and hang-ons, and we had those screw-in steps, but that gave you versatility because when you were talking about bending trees, I had a really great setup that the tree came out of the side of the hill, was hanging down, and I had to set up my screw-ins just so gravity wouldn't suck me down. But the only way to use that was actually with screw-in steps. So now you have the separate steps to do that because I do believe it gives you a lot more versatility, and they're a lot quieter. I used to have a fanny pack and have about 10 of those in there and use only what you needed to use, and that was it. But we don't do screw-ins anymore. I mean, people have really moved away. They're not really safe, in my opinion, and they do put holes in trees.
Yep.
And they're a little bit more time consuming than like quick sticks or like a lone wolf climbing sticks. I mean, the time that it takes to screw 3 of those in, and the energy that it takes to screw 3 of those in versus just, throwing the rope around the tree and cinching it up and stepping up.
Yeah, no, I agree. You think back at the beginning of this stuff when you're doing it, it's just, home built, hang on, tree stands out of everything you can imagine. Huh?
Why wasn't 2 by 4?
Well, yeah, we get away from that, but that itself was dangerous. I mean, they're staying still on our farm. Yeah, they're as old as I am. We don't obviously hunt them anymore. And I keep saying, we just need to go in there and just take them out.
Or somebody hurts themselves.
Well, no, it's somebody, inadvertently did something stupid, but, whatever. Hey, let's take a break now. I know both you guys are on some pro staffs. Jake, let's start with you, and let's talk about Whitetail Underground and the other pro staff that you're part of.
Whitetail Grounds is run by Brian Ritchie and Mindy Ritchie. They do deer mineral and as well as urine attractants. And Buckstick is it's a new product just coming out this year. It's going to be a mock scrape and a mock rub with natural gland scents that you apply to it. So yeah, really kind of excited to see how that one turns out this year. Excited to see some of the stuff that's going to do. So
because I believe in mock scrapes. Don't know anything about mock rubs, but mock scrapes. I have used my rattling horns to right at the scrape to put a rub in there, coming in or going out, and so for somebody to think through that and put together something that's interesting to look at. And Brian Ritchie, folks, is a good guy. He was the founder of Moon Stands, and now he's moved to Whitetail Grounds and Back Porch podcast. So he's got a lot of things going on, plus BAM Outdoors. So there's a shout out to you, Brian Ritchie. Sean, what do you got going?
I pro staff for Mossy Oak. We all know Mossy Oak is the camouflage company. And then I also pro staff for Fairdyne Outdoors, which has, they have like 10 or 11 different companies that they own. Rage, Broadheads, Nocturnal Whited Knox. They have Glendale Targets, Block Targets, IQ Bow Sights, Sherlock, Carbon Express Arrows, Wacom. There's a few other ones in there as well, but those are a couple companies I'm with. I'm actually part of field staff for Muddy Outdoors as well, and Pure Whitetail, which is they have mock scrapes and both synthetic and natural deer urine as well. So
what's the benefit? Let's spend just a moment here. What's the benefit of repping with those or representing those companies, those outdoor companies? How does that help you?
Right. Well, the biggest thing when you represent an outdoor company, in my mind, you have to use their product. You have to use their product and believe in their product. Because once you're part of a company, whether you're pro staff or field staff or they sponsor your outdoor show or whatever, they're giving you discounts for their product. Well, you need to believe in their product to actually use it. It shouldn't be about, hey, they'll give me 20% off, I'm going to use your product now. You're representing them. So in my eyes, it should be something you believe in, you want to use, and you're going to use whether you're on their staff or not. That's part of the reason why I'm part of Mossy Oak and Fairdyne and Muddy is because I've used their products, I believe in their products, and I will continue to believe in them. And I'm helping them hopefully gain more customers because I'm using them, and I'm saying, hey, I'm using Mossy Oak. I've had deer look at me and, they'll see me up in a tree because I move, but they look at you and they don't quite figure out what's there because their camouflage is hiding you. And by me telling other people that, hopefully I'm helping the company gain more people to, buy their products, but I'm also representing them, as saying, hey, this is a good company as well. They're not just here to, take your money. They want to actually have happy customers. So in turn, I help them and they scratch my back by giving me a discount, so.
Yeah, I'll kind of second everything he says. You have to believe in the product, and it can't be about you wanting the discount for the product to be doing it. You're doing it for the company. It's a marketing. The way I look at it is it's a type of marketing for them. They're giving you that 15, 20, 30% discount, whatever it is on the product. So you use it and you tell your friends about it. Again, I'm kind of repeating everything Sean said here, but it's about getting the name of the company, getting the name of the product, and how to use the product out into the general public's hands.
So let's spend the last 10 minutes and talk about one, your prime time of hunting. I know some guys only hunt 3 days a year. That's it. They do scouting, they do all the food plots, everything else, but actually hunting, they do it 3 days a year. I know other guys, he spent 23 days in a stand on his farm hunting, one buck, and he obviously moved around in the stands, but he could never pin him down. 23 days straight. he hunted that buck and it's a 300-400 acre farm, so large enough that he could get away without pressuring the deer, quote unquote, pressuring the deer. The deer had to know he's there because he was there, but he'd spent that much time. So between those two things, what are you guys' thoughts about what you like to do to maximize your time in the stand? So you set up an opportunity to kill a mature buck.
For me, I start. Well, it'll be really going to be starting here around the June time, like Sean said, starting to run cameras, putting together a hit list from around July, August, beginning of September. That getting a good feel of what bucks are out there, and then I usually let my property soak from September until mid October, like I said, still running cameras on my trails. So that first time that I go in and I take my stand to hunt, I'll pull my cards and go back and kind of see what's been going on to educate, as well as look at previous years to kind of educate me on what I'm going to do the next time that I go out. Now, prime time, like I said, I start right around the middle to the end of October, right when the rut starts kicking off, and I'm a dad and a husband, so family time comes first before my hunting. So I tend to focus on the high probability days, which, in my opinion, is going to be the cold fronts, weird wind changes, something where it's going to make them get up and move, or get up and make them want to move. And I don't put a whole lot of merit in the moon. I know there's some guys that do, but most of my deer have been shot on or around that first week of November. The last two deer that I shot, both were November 5th. One couple years ago wasn't a very big deer, and this is where patience comes in. I shot my wife was wanting me to get out of the trees and come home. So I told myself, I'm going to shoot the first buck that walks by then, because I've got to hang Christmas lights and everything else. So I shot. That's what I did. I shot the first buck that walked by. Well, it wasn't wasn't a big buck, not taking anything away from the animal. I was happy with the harvest, but as I was going down and picking up the arrow, about 170-inch deer was on the trail right behind him. So patience. But I really like that beginning of November.
I'm a big fan of late October and late November. I'm not a big rut fan, but I tend to key in on one or two certain deer, and those are the ones I want to hunt. And generally, those deer I see more late season, or early season and late season. So during the rut is the worst time of the year for me to hunt those specific deer, because generally, once the does are pretty much bred in my little 30-acre spot, which doesn't take very long, those deer are gone. They move out and they go find other does. Well, now the deer that I want to shoot is now on the neighbor's property, or 2 miles down on another neighbor's property where he could get shot. So I prefer to get in there before they do. But I really like the late October days where you get a nice cold front coming in, your barometric pressure goes up. I look into everything when it comes to deer hunting. Your barometric pressure, your moon phase. I look at the wind, natural wind versus different wind, whether it's cloudy or sunny, all of that. And it was October 27th this last year. I had one of my bucks, which is about a 160-inch deer. I had him up and moving around at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And to most people, they're like, because I'm sitting here posted on Facebook, I'm out in the deer woods, and everyone's like, well, aren't you out there kind of early? And I take a picture of the deer sitting out there because he was bedding out. He was bedded about 50 yards away. And I go, nope. I go, my number one hit list buck has been moving around at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. I said, this is the perfect time to be out here. But it was one of those days where your barometric pressure was higher. You had a little bit of a cold front coming in. So you had a good day to be out in the woods. And you get those late October days, the deer are still a little more predictable than during the rut. Because during the rut, you find a doe group that's bedding somewhere, and you hunt it, and you have no clue what buck's going to come by. You can't predict anything. But late October, you can predict, all right, this deer's bedded here. Here's his, main food source, he can still get up and move. But they're also getting to be close to that point where, all right, they're getting ready to start checking does. They're getting anxious. They want to get up on their feet earlier. They want to go. So to me, nothing to beat a late October cold front in the woods.
Well, with that, folks, I want to thank Jake and Sean for being guests on Whitetail Rendezvous. I hope you picked up some of the inside tips that they're sharing. And Sean, how can somebody get hold of you if they want to reach out to you?
Yeah, I'm on Facebook, Sean Newberg or Bowhunting Mature Whitetails are on Facebook there as well. You guys want to send a message and say, hey, you want to talk to me? Actually, I hate to say it, but my phone number's on Bowhunting Mature Whitetails too. So if you ever really want to give me a call, go for it. But, send out a message and we'll get back to you as soon as possible. I'm generally pretty good about that. And I'm always willing to talk about deer hunting.
Jake?
Same way. Same thing, Facebook. I'm a part of Bowhunting Mature Whitetails, so get a hold of me through there as well as on my personal page. So
under Jake Gullickson?
Yep, Jake Gullickson, yep.
Now, are you on Instagram, Twitter, Snapchat, anything else?
Yes, but no.
Okay.
Yeah, we do have a Bowhunting Mature Whitetails Instagram page, but I'm still trying to learn how Instagram works. I'm a Facebook guy, so.
All right. Works for me, folks. Hey, guys, thanks so much for taking your time. And, hope one day to get up and hunt the Dakotas. That's a draw system, isn't it?
For rifle, yes. Archery, it is not a draw system. So.
It's not a draw system. So you can go and get over-counter tags for archery?
Well, no, it's a draw, but there's not there. But you have to apply, but you're guaranteed the archery tag. They're not over the counter, but they are over the counter.
Yeah.
If you get what I'm
but
saying.
you have to apply. So there's a specific time during the year you have to apply for it. Now, is it statewide? Is it South River? Or, East River, West River? Or
both. There's a statewide deer tag for bow hunting, and then there's a East River tag, and then there's a West River tag. You're only allowed either the one statewide tag or the one either West River or one, or you can get both a West River and an East River. So if you apply for the statewide, you only get the one. If you want to hunt both the beautiful west side of the state or the even more beautiful east side of the state, you can apply for both of those as well.
So there's some added tips, folks, that are thinking about expanding horizon. Because I'll tell you one thing, I've had a lot of guests from the Dakotas, and there's some wonderful deer. You've heard made reference by Jake and Sean today that 150 plus class mature deer do roam, and you got to hunt them differently though. It's a little different thing, and it sounds like you got to do your homework before you start hanging stands.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
All right, thanks so much, guys.
Hey, something special happened for yours truly last year, and I got invited by Redneck Blinds to talk to the director of marketing, TJ Pugh, and TJ had some situation pop up, and we weren't able to get it together last year, but we sure as heck got together this year, and we had one heck of a show, and Redneck Blinds, you've heard about them. Hopefully you've used them, you've seen them. They're certainly not the least expensive tower blind. We're going to be talking on this show mostly about their buck palace, a 10-foot buck palace. And we're going to talk about why people are buying large fiberglass 10-foot or higher blinds. And there's a lot of good reasons for it. Myself, I get in a tower blind because I got a hip that's busted up and got a pin in it. I got pins in my shoulder, and I got left hand that doesn't work real well. So I hunt with a crossbow, and I want to be warm, especially in Wisconsin when it's below zero. And having said that, TJ goes all through the Redneck Blind philosophy and the mission statement. And again, it's not just about Redneck Blinds; it's about hunting techniques and how to camouflage your tower blind and how to make it the critical thing we came up with on one part was the entrance and exit of your blind. It isn't just driving up to it, parking your ATV, or walking up to it and walking up and sitting down. There's a lot of things that you should really think about, how to stealthily get into your blind and get out of your blind. And so many more things we're talking about, but I couldn't be happier to have TJ Pugh with Redneck Blinds.
Thanks for joining us. Be sure to tune in tomorrow for another episode of Whitetail Rendezvous, where you can listen and learn from the experts so you can be more successful on your next hunt. Until next time, listen, learn, and succeed.